All right, eyebrows. Okay, when you're coming down here to the nose, you remember I said the nose is a wedge when you're looking straight on. There's another small wedge that comes off the main wedge when you're looking straight into a face. Kind of draw that in, and you're going to shade it. It's going to slant down and come in, and you'll shade that. All right, and then the nostrils. The temptation is to put them closer than they should be. You want to move them out just a little, and they're darker at the very top, and then they gradually get lighter as the light falls onto the upper lip. So there's the other nostril, very dark here at the top, fading into the upper lip. And then the bottom of the nose is very much shaded. This is a heavy shade here. And then the one wing of the nostril will come out and curve under this part. So out, down, and under. Okay, now let me work some more on my shading. I think I'm going to narrow this nose just a little bit. I'm having to work at an awkward angle for the sake of the camera, so if you'll bear with me. Okay, I'm going to fill in this shading just a little more. All right, and then we have the bottom lip. I work very intuitively. I typically will start with the eyes, then the mouth, then the nose, and then I will begin to bounce around from there. So here what I'm wanting to do intuitively is to begin to curve in the shape of the face and use shading. And now that I'm getting a pretty good idea of where this is heading, oh, and by the way, as this curves down, below this, remember we first drew a square, then divided the square into thirds. When you come 2/3 down, that's about where the cheekbones will kind of come in, particularly if your model or if the face you're painting has high cheekbones, they'll start to curve in right there. And these circles, again, I told you, are the plane of those cheeks. So there's the cheekbones, and I'm going to just begin to curve. And we may shorten this chin just a little bit, and keeping in mind that the neck will be about here and about here. Okay, now that I kind of see where I'm going, I think I'm going to try to go in with my brush, just very slightly wet. I have this much gouache in the bottom of a bowl, and I'm going to keep wetting that with this squirt bottle, and I'm gonna just barely work with that. No kidding, that's it. To begin to lay in some of the shadow work in this face, and I'm staying as far back from it as I know to do to keep everything very loose, not tight. Again, borrowing just this tiny bit of gouache paint, which is water soluble, out of the bowl. Not worrying, you see these runs? Not worried about that. I'm going to let those be there. Kind of work these lips a little bit. Get the bottom of the lip going. Get that shadow going, that nice deep shadow that is usually there. Okay, then coming in here, there's a little bit of shadow, tiny bit, usually underneath where the cheeks curve out. And then the shadow under the brow bone, coming into the side of the nose, under the eye. And now you see why I penciled in the circles there. That's where your lightest lights are typically going to be the bridge of the nose and the planes of these cheekbones, the forehead, and the chin. Again, see that drip? I like it. I'm leaving it. Don't mind it at all. Keeping everything loose. And I like this particular brush because I can go very broad stroke with it when I want to, or I can turn it on its side and do a little bit of a finer line with it. Okay. And you see how if you'll remember, I first initially laid in that square with gouache. And gouache is very water soluble. So wherever I want to get rid of those guidelines, I can just do it. Really, really fun medium to use. If I were working with acrylics, which I typically do, again, I would not be able, I'd have to cover up those guidelines. I couldn't just incorporate them into the design. Typically there's a heavy shadow under the chin unless your subject is lit from beneath. There's a heavy shadow right under the chin. And again, I'm working very intuitively, no rhyme or reason, no real order to what I decide to do. I just kind of let this brush bounce around where it wants to go. Now in real life, your two eyes are not exactly the same. One side of your face, while your face is overall pleasing, symmetrical, if you were to divide it down the middle, look at the left side and look at the right side, there would be slight differences in real life. So you know what? I do not sweat it and I don't worry about it if there are small differences in my painting. Obviously, I'm not going to paint one eyebrow really thick and bushy and the other eyebrow very trimmed and neat. I'm not going to paint one brown eye and one blue eye unless the subject has that. But I don't work super hard to make everything exactly the same from left to right. Okay, I'm going to come up here and kind of begin to sculpt this mouth a little bit, sculpt the chin a little bit. And then I think what I'm going to do next is wet my brush with this. Actually, I'm going to change brushes, you guys. And I know you can't see, this is all off camera, but I'm going to come in with a more or less dry brush. This is a bright, an 11 bright. It's got that sharp straight line edge.